Hey gang, thanks so much for joining us for our virtual gatherings here at 48days.net. My name is Jen McDonough, also known as the Iron Jen. I am the 48days connector, and we are so delighted to have Marcy Travis with us this week as we talk about really how to optimize your resume for those online places. And Marcy, tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into the content.
Oh, thanks, Jen. Thanks for having me today. So I am a certified career counselor career coach through Dan Miller's program, Coaching Mastery Program. And also have worked for 20 years in career services, doing resumes and helping people find work. So I have a lot of kind of up-to-date information on resumes and what employers are looking for, and so that's what we're going to concentrate on today. Especially I get a lot of people that tell me that they're very frustrated with doing online applications and they're not really seeing results from it. So I kind of formed this out of that feedback. So when I get done, if you have any questions or anything in particular that you're struggling with, just let me know.
Yeah, and Marcy has been on before. I tell you, she's the resume queen. She's really done a great job of helping folks with their career counseling and with their resume sections. If you're not already following her over at the 48days.net blogs, you can find her. Her information is really top-notch, and it's really been a joy to have her over there and sharing her information. So if you need help with your resume, she's the person to go through.
Well, thanks, Jen. And at the end of this, I'm going to put up on the screen that you can go to my website. I made a special page for 48 Days people, and I'll have a free download of the checklist that I talk about today, and also how to make your resume kind of pretty, just for somebody looking at it. So we like pretty. Employers like pretty. So we'll go through that as well. So at the end. So.
Well, Marcy, I know you've got some tips for us. I think there's five of them. What's the first tip on optimizing that resume for online?
So the first thing that you need to know, if you're applying online, you're being scanned. So when you're uploading your resume and your information into the computer, if you're going around here, people apply a lot to the big employer who is Corning Incorporated. And when they do that, Corning's scanning their resume, and most employers are doing this if they're of any size. So the computer's actually scanning it, and we're going to talk about what that means. It's the actual system that's doing it is called an ATS, an Applicant Tracking System. So it's reading your resume and it's reading the information you're putting in there. And why this is important is because it is a computer. So it speaks its own language, and there are different systems for different employers. So that's why we have to kind of be aware of what works and what doesn't work. Because if you go to all the trouble, sometimes it takes a whole hour to do an online application, you want to make sure it gets through that screen that it's going through. So that's why this is important.
And Marcy, before we go on further, I just want to kind of clarify. I know Dan, in his book, 48 Days to the Work You Love, walks us through the process. We write letters, and so this is not saying, hey, don't do everything that he talks about. But
Absolutely.
In addition to doing what he's talking about, this is a great one.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with Dan. The best way to go about finding work is through networking, and he talks about that in his book. That's where most of your job, that's where every one of my job leads have come from. Also, sending out hard copies of introduction letters, cover letters, resumes. I totally agree with that. And I tell people, a lot of people, though, despite that, are applying online. And so for those people, I say still do what Dan says to do, but do this first if employers are asking for it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep, it's okay to do too much. All right, so 75% of recruiters and hiring professionals are using the ATS system, so a lot of them are using it. And 75% of qualified job applicants are being rejected by the ATS systems due to reasons like incorrect resume formatting, and we're going to talk about that today, how to make yours correct. One company, just to test out their ATS system, they created a perfect resume for their ideal candidate to apply for a clinical scientist role, and it only scored a 43%. So the ATS it was submitted to misread the resume. So that's just something
amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. So, I mean, it's already a numbers game if you're applying online. And then if you're applying online and not getting through this ATS screen, it's a problem. It's a problem for the employers, too. 80% of job candidates described online job applications as stressful. And I would say that lines up with what I see in real life, see in here. And 60% of the job applicants quit an online application because it was too complex or too long. And I noted at the bottom where I pulled these stats from. So these are 6 tips to optimize your resume for online applications. And I do want to say, I will tell you what I hear over and over, probably every single week, is I've uploaded my resume and I've applied to 100 places. And what they do is they go on Indeed or they go on Career Builder, and then they have a generic resume and they send it to every single job opening, and it doesn't work. You're going to see why here. So here's 6 tips to optimize your resume. Tip 1 is use a readable format, and that's what we've been leading up to. So the applicant tracking system is computer software that only reads language in a specific format. So you want to, when you're applying, there's always, when you get to that point where you're going to upload something, you want to check their application instructions, and they'll tell you what the accepted formats are. Tip number 2 is don't use templates, okay? And templates are really hard for the ATS to read, and it prevents the applicant tracking system from reading your information correctly. And I'm going to give you an example of what a template looks like versus something else. So there's templates and then there's documents. For instance, in Microsoft Word, most ATS systems will take a Microsoft Word document and it will have a .doc or a .x at the end of it, at the file name. A template's completely different though. And I'll show you. So this is a template. This is Microsoft Word. I just pulled this off Microsoft Word. It's one of their standard resume templates. You can find it online. You just fill in the blanks. It makes it look like it's so easy and you're ready to go, but you're not, because the system you're uploading it to can't read it. And here's why. So this shows the same resume, and it's a template with the hard to read boxes highlighted in blue. So there's all these hard to read boxes that the ATS is going to not be able to read those, and they're important information. So sometimes it'll be able to read it, and sometimes it won't be able to read it at all. So you don't want to take the chance. So what do? This is what you do. So this is a resume I actually did. I changed the name and some of the information on it. But this is a resume I did in Microsoft Word, and it was created as a document. I didn't use a template. I just pulled up a page, and then I saved it under the person's name, and it saved to .docx. And so a lot of people, the other thing they do, most of the ATSs will be able to read a Microsoft Word document. But a lot of people like to save their resume in PDF format, and I understand why, because sometimes when you save it in Word and you try to email it or send it, and even it did it on this one I'm seeing now, it kind of the margins are off, so things aren't lined up correctly. So PDF's fine if you're going to be emailing it to save it as PDF. It'll keep everything right in line. But if you're going to be uploading it, you definitely don't want to do PDF unless the system says it accepts PDF. It will tell you exactly what it can read. Tip number 3 is to remove any extras. So extras cause problems for this applicant tracking system. So you want to eliminate anything that could confuse it, and I'm going to give you a couple ideas. Headers and footers can jam the system. So in a Microsoft, and I'm sorry if I'm getting too technical for people that don't use Microsoft Word, but Anyways, so the Microsoft Word, you can insert a header and a footer. You don't want to do that. Just put it in the main area of the document, your header that has your information on it, because the system.
I'm just going to say, this is amazing. Like, who would know this stuff that you're talking about?
You wouldn't unless you sit like me and hear everybody complaining about how they don't get any calls. And so then there's a reason. So yeah, so you go and start to research it. And it's crazy. And I think it's frustrating for the applicants and it's frustrating for the employers because they're missing out on some good people.
Yeah, definitely. So apologies. Please go on. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
No, this is great. This is great. Well, so I'm glad you interject because I don't know if I'm losing people.
No, it's phenomenal. And we've got questions coming in the chat area.
Oh, good.
Keep those questions coming, you guys, as we go. And if they're not answered throughout the session here, we'll answer them at the end. Okay.
So here's an example of where one that I did that I put the header within the document instead of using the insert header menu item. It's a menu item at the top of Word where you insert. You don't want to use that. Just put it right in the main area of the document. It looks the same to us, but not to the ATS. Tip 4 is mirror keywords. So when you've got a job ad, you want to mirror the keywords in that job ad. And the reason for that is the applicant tracking system is programmed to count exact keywords. So it may not know synonyms. It probably doesn't know like words. So you want to use the exact keywords. You want to sprinkle the job ad keywords throughout your resume where it applies. So you could be fully qualified and you could use a synonym or a like word for your skill set and it wouldn't give you credit for it. So it's actually going to count. And we've seen this even before these systems were in place when we'd have recruitments. We would have recruitments and an employer would have a stack of 1,000 resumes to go through and they've got to find some way. They're not going to read 1,000 resumes. They don't have time. So what they would do is they would decide what keywords were important and we'd see them circling on the resumes and then counting. And if it had so many keywords that matched up, it went in the look further interview pile. So now the computer system does it.
Thank you, Marcy.
Okay. So right here's an example of where I put in keywords from the resume. So I put the job title in at the top. I plugged in the keywords right here on the right-hand side under highlights of qualifications. I put in keywords from the job ad, and the system will count those. And I've had people say to me, well, that's cheating. A lot of people don't know that. And I'm like, I just showed you how to game the system. So, now you know.
That's crazy. But what an easy way to plug in those keywords under like the highlights of qualifications. That's genius, Marcy.
And I will tell you a little story. Okay. So there was one person that came in, not in this, not with me, but with another person I know. And he was not qualified for the positions he was getting interviewed for. And the person interviewing him said, how are you getting all these interviews? Because he would apply and he would get interviews. Well, what he did, he had figured this system out. And what he did was do not do this because it doesn't work. It doesn't work for lots of reasons, but don't do it. So what he did was he figured this out that they're counting the keywords. So he copied and pasted the whole job ad on the bottom of his resume, turned the font color to white so it looked like there was nothing on the paper. When he uploaded it, it got 100% matched. And so he was getting all these interviews. But then he'd get into the interview and they're probably like, why are you in here? He wouldn't get the job. So it wasn't a good thing to do, but it just shows that it works.
Well, Marcy, that's amazing. Actually,
it is. It was very smart. So he should be working someplace. But do not do this because now they're catching on because a lot of people are doing it. So if you match up 100%, then you're going to get screened out. So, kind of look it over and sprinkle them through where you feel that it's relevant. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks. And again, you
Okay.
guys, as she's going here, go ahead and put those questions in the chat. We're loving them. Thank you.
All right. And tip number 5 is spell it out. So spell out any acronyms and abbreviations. You should be doing this anyway, but the applicant tracking system or the human resource manager may not understand what the abbreviations mean, so always spell them out. I come across this, work with quite a few technical people, and I have to Google the acronym to find out what it is. So, you know, if I'm working with them and doing their resume, I spell it out every time, because a lot of times people within their industry say they're IT, they're very high IT, then they understand each other, but it's going to go through the human resource manager probably, and they may not understand. They may be matching the words, as I do sometimes, but they probably won't do what I do, which is Google the words to figure out the context. So you don't want to make them go through that, because they probably won't.
Small question, Marcy, but would it be okay to put the acronym and then in parentheses the word, or
Yes,
what it is?
that's what I do, or the word in parentheses acronym. Yep, that's exactly what you should do. And then tip number 6 is do a final check. Now, there's something you can go ahead and use this site. It's free, jobscan.co. You can scan your resume against the wording in the job advertisement, and it'll tell you how it's going to do in an ATS screen. So they have researched the top systems used by thousands of companies and built their algorithm based on the common patterns among all the ATSs. So once you get it all done and you do your checklist, put it in this jobscan.co along with copying and pasting the job ad, and it'll tell you how you've done. Okay, so I always tell people, even if you don't believe me, try it as a little experiment.
Oh, yeah.
And see how it works for you.
Marcy, quick question, and you may be covering this already, but when you're reading a job description, does it necessarily matter if it's say a qualification or like a skill or something? Does that score higher, or is it like a point for everything? Is there different ways it scores, or is it just
I don't, I don't know. I don't know that much in depth. I'm imagining they put in certain keywords that are relevant to the job ad. So if it's IT and they're looking for certain abilities to work with certain software, I'm sure that those are put in, but I'm not sure how sophisticated it is, to be honest.
I just popped in my head randomly, and
no, that's okay.
For aeromedics, they require a certain weight. You have to be, for air transport medics, you can't be over.
They probably would, Jen.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, if you're applying for aeromedic, maybe you want to put your weight in there according to.
There you go. And normally you wouldn't put that in there. But yeah, no, you're right. I would put that in there. The other thing I want to tell you is if you are applying for government work, like federal government jobs, they also have a scan. And there's a whole different system to getting through that screen. So that's a totally different screen. And, if anybody wants to know about that, we could do another webinar on that. But
sure. Or they can meet with you as a coach.
Or meet with me as a coach, right? Because that's a whole different type of resume. But they do also the federal government screens. So
awesome.
And they use ATS, but it's different. It's different than this.
That's good to know. I mean, who would know? All right, this is awesome. So tip number 7, what are we on?
Oh, we're over. That was it. 6 tips.
This is so fascinating.
So just soon I'll answer the questions, but I do have the check sheet I just went over, plus additional items to check just so that your resume looks professional to the ATS and to the human. Just go to marcytravis.com/48 days, and there's a free check sheet you can download. It has all the checks that we just went through, plus some additional ones. And then I'm doing also, if you're interested, you don't want to have to be bothered with all this stuff and you'd like your resume done for you, I'm giving you guys a special resume offer until September 30th, $50 off my resume package.
Oh, phenomenal. And is this only for 48days.net members, or can they share with family members, friends?
No, they can share with family members, yeah. Yep.
Awesome. So it's kind of an in thing. Oh, this is awesome, Marcy. Thank you. I
You're
think
welcome.
I think we already answered some of the questions here, but we'll go through them. And again, if you guys have questions, either A, unmute yourself, or B, put it in the chat session. So Carrie asked, what's the best format for the ATS to work with, Word, PDF, or other? And I think you already answered that. But if you
Yeah,
want
so Word is probably always accepted, PDF sometimes, but it will give you instructions when you get to the point. I'd be surprised if I heard anybody say they didn't have instructions. It will give you instructions on what formats that they accept.
and
So you just have to watch out for
if there is a choice, Marcy, which do you prefer?
that. If there's a choice and it can read both, and it wouldn't make a difference, whatever one you have.
Okay, awesome. And Carrie asks, how about plain text format?
Yeah, I think plain text would be fine too, and that's probably the safest. Yeah.
Okay.
Plain text.
And I
And
think
all that is it's just making sure, like a lot of mine have bullets and things, so plain text is taking all that out. It's not very pretty, and I definitely would not use it for the interview when you get it, but for uploading, for the application, that would be fine.
awesome. Hey, that's a great tip too, is when you go to an interview, don't be shy about copying off the pretty version, correct?
Absolutely. I always, I'll tell you what, when I would go to a resume, I have a little portfolio put together. I have a portfolio of any work I've done that's relevant to the position that I'm applying for. I have several copies of my resume to hand out because you never know if you're going to have more than one person there. I have past letters of recommendation with me. I come armed. I come armed, ready for battle. But no, I have also kind of in my head, I have a list of questions I'm going to ask about the company.
You want to make it the path of least resistance for them.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
awesome. John asks, and you may have answered this, Marcy, is there an ATS system available online that would show me typical ATS interprets a resume? And that was the job.
Jobscan.co.
Awesome. And you guys, if this is not answering the questions or you have additional ones, please put that in there. Carrie asks, if a recruiter calls and asks for a resume, do employers typically run that through the ATS as well? Great question.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think when recruiters, if you're just emailing to a recruiter, I do not think that that's happening. I can't imagine that they're applying online for you. I don't know that for sure, but I have never heard of that. What I would probably do is ask the recruiter what format they want it in. Say I have it in PDF or Word, which would you like? Because they should know that. They know what they're going to do with that. But I'm imagining they're handing it to the employer or emailing it to the employer. So I'd probably use PDF.
Okay, awesome. So I'm looking for anyone unmuting their thing here online. I don't see any. Looks like everyone's muted. So if you do have a question, we've got time for one more here. You can put that in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself, and I will see you. Hey, Marcy, what typically do you find, and we didn't prep this question, but what typically do you find when folks come to you for their resume work? What are they struggling with? And I know we've covered this on past ones before.
I think they're struggling with direction. The first thing I ask somebody when they come to me with a resume is, I want to know what your perfect job is. Like, what would your perfect, I call it the dream job, but your perfect job. I want to see a description because we want to craft the resume around that, what you really want to do. It's okay to do 2 or 3 versions of your resume, but yeah, they struggle with that. The other thing, if I get somebody that's very technical, they want to have a 5 or 6 page resume, and it does not work, not in the corporate world. They want you to be succinct. They want you to be professional. They want you to get to the point. All your strong points need to be on the first page because an employer's only going to look at it for like 6 seconds initially.
Yeah, that's and that's kind of we talked about that on one of the last webinars, and I think some people are surprised by that. You put such time and effort into this to find out that 6, 8, 10 seconds, that's it.
Initially, you got to catch their attention, so they want to look more and they want to call you in and they want to talk to you. Then you can use a longer resume if you want to in the portfolio that you have prepared to show them in the interview. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
Marcy Travis, this was beyond awesome. This is the first virtual gathering that we're going to offer for folks to watch as a replay. So we'll be sending out that link. You're welcome to share with your friends, family, on your social media network sites.
Yep.
But Marcy, you are the bomb diggity bomb. Thank you.
Jen, so are you.
Thank you so much. So again, for those listening in, maybe why don't you go ahead and share where we can connect with you, Marcy? Any tips or anything or whatever?
Okay. Well, if you want to come to my website, marcytravis.com, I have a lot of free giveaways, but there is a special page for you, just /48 days. So marcytravis.com/48 days. You can get your free check sheet, but there's a lot, I give away a lot for free on there just to help people get started. You can also email me at marcytravis@outlook.com.
And I know we've got a few questions coming in here, Marcy, that I'll ask them to reach out to you if that's okay through your email.
Sure.
And then, Marcy, what is that again? Marcy Travis.
My email is Marcy Travis, MarcyTravis @outlook.com.
Outstanding. Marcy, thank you so much.
All right.
This was awesome. You guys, thank you so much for joining us, taking time out of your day and joining us. Again, feel free to share. We'll have this link uploaded in the next couple days and send that out. But Marcy truly is a gem. She's a joy. If you have not read Dan's book, 48 Days, The Work You Love, would highly encourage you to get a copy over at 48days.com, or you can head over to Amazon, whatever works best for you. But again, thank you so much, Marcy. And
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.